and he went ballistic. And he called me, and that's the last thing I heard was, "Motherfucker, fuck you. You're supposed to be my boy," and blah, blah. And I said, man, I got to do my job. And we haven't spoken since that night. That was probably close to 10 years ago. That would be on his end, Matt. He was my best friend at the time, and I love the guy, and I miss him.
Charles Barkley once truly believed he was the greatest basketball player alive, even better than Michael Jordan. Two NBA icons, bonded through fierce competition, draft night memories, and Olympic triumphs, shared a friendship that seemed unbreakable, until a single phone call in 2012 changed everything. This is the story of how Barkley came to accept Jordan's greatness, and how that realization slowly fractured the brotherhood they once had. Go back to 1993. Charles Barkley isn't just confident, he's convinced he's the best player on earth. Not second. Not in the conversation. The best, period. Fresh off an MVP season, he had dominated the league and powered Phoenix to the NBA's top record at 62-20. When he arrived in Phoenix after the trade, he stepped into that locker room on day one carrying himself like the undisputed king of basketball, certain the league now ran through him. But here's what makes this story so remarkable. Charles Barkley wasn't some delusional bench player running his mouth. He was a legitimate Hall of Fame superstar who had just beaten Michael Jordan for the 1993 MVP, and not by a little. Barkley earned 59 first-place votes. Jordan got only 13. The basketball world had spoken loud and clear. Charles Barkley was the most valuable player in the game. So when Barkley told his coach, Cotton Fitzsimmons, that he was the best player in the world and that Phoenix was heading to the finals, Cotton gave him a calm warning, "Michael will be there too." Barkley didn't hesitate. "I think I'm better than Michael Jordan." And at the time, it didn't sound crazy. Barkley was putting up 25. 6 points, 12. 2 rebounds, and 5. 1 assist per game while shooting over 50% from the field. He had led the Suns to the league's best record. Statistically and mentally, he had every reason to believe the throne was his for the taking. What made it even more compelling was their relationship. Barkley and Jordan had entered the NBA together in 1984 and quickly became close friends. They shared the spotlight on the legendary Dream Team in Barcelona, where Barkley actually led the squad in scoring, averaging 18 points per game compared to Jordan's 14. 8. Off the court, they golfed together, joked together, and built a bond that fans would later see highlighted years later in The Last Dance. In the early 90s, if any duo represented true NBA friendship, it was Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley. But friendships don't matter when history is on the line. The stage for the 1993 finals felt almost scripted. Jordan's Chicago Bulls, guided by Phil Jackson, were chasing their third straight title after championships in 91 and 92. Yet during the regular season they won 57 games, 5 fewer than Barkley's Suns. Jordan still delivered his usual brilliance with 32. 6 points, 6. 7 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, but the narrative around the league was different now. This felt like Barkley's moment. His year. His chance to take the crown. Game 1 shattered that illusion quickly. Chicago won, and Jordan poured in 31 points while Barkley finished with 21. It was a reminder that the road to greatness still ran through number 23. Game 2 turned into something legendary. Both superstars exploded for 42 points, only the second time in finals history that opposing players each scored 40+ in the same game. But Jordan's performance felt larger, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, total control of the night. Chicago edged Phoenix 111-108, and suddenly the Suns were down 0-2, both losses coming at home. Barkley's championship dream was already starting to slip. Then came Game 3 in Chicago, one of the wildest finals games ever played. Triple overtime. Pure chaos. Kevin Johnson battled through 62 of a possible 63 minutes. Dan Majel hit clutch shots to keep Phoenix alive. Barkley, fighting through an injured right elbow, hauled in 19 rebounds to go with 24 points. The Suns finally survived, 129-121. But after the game, Barkley made a comment that would only fuel Jordan's fire. Looking at the stat sheet, he laughed about Jordan taking 43 shots. "Man, Michael Jordan shot the ball 43 times, that's unbelievable. He's going to be icing his elbow too." It sounded harmless.
We put our friendship aside.
Barkley would later reflect on Game 4, and Jordan answered in the most Jordan way imaginable. 55 points. 8 rebounds. 4 assists. Shooting 21 of 37 from the field. Inside Chicago Stadium, with the crowd roaring and a chance to seize a commanding 3-1 series lead, Michael Jordan went into a different dimension. He wasn't just hot, he was unstoppable, locked into that cold, surgical rhythm only the greatest players ever reach. To be fair, Barkley was phenomenal too. He finished with 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists, a triple-double performance that, on almost any other night against almost any other opponent, would be enough to win a finals game. But this wasn't any other night. And he wasn't facing just any player.
48, 49, somewhere in there, 26, something like that. But Michael fucking had like 55. Ooh.
That was the real moment. Not when the series officially ended. Not when John Paxson drilled the championship-clinching 3 in Game 6. It happened earlier, in Game 4, when Barkley looked across the court and understood he was facing something different. Something he'd never seen before. A player who simply refused to lose, no matter the circumstances. Phoenix did manage to fight back and win Game 5, sending the series back home and keeping hope alive. But mentally, the shift had already happened. The belief Barkley carried into the finals was starting to crack. Game 6 became the final test. With a chance to force a decisive Game 7, the Suns battled to the very end. Then, with just 9 seconds remaining, John Paxson buried a cold-blooded three-pointer, giving Chicago a 99-98 lead and sealing their 3rd straight championship. As the buzzer echoed, Barkley didn't need a scoreboard to tell him what it meant. Deep down, he felt it, his best shot at a title had slipped away. That night, when he got home, the loss followed him through the door. He found his daughter in tears. When she looked at him and said, "Daddy, you lost again," it hit harder than anything that had happened on the court. In that quiet moment, something inside Charles Barkley broke.
I remember going home. When I got home, my daughter was upset. And I said, I had told her before, I said, ain't nobody in the world better at basketball than your dad, and we're gonna win this fucking series. When I got home, she was crying, and I was like, she's, "Dad, I thought you told me y'all were gonna win." I said, "Christiana, I ain't never said this before. I think there's somebody better at basketball."
For someone who had built his identity on being the best, accepting second place was painful. Barkley had delivered an incredible finals performance, averaging 27. 3 points and 13 rebounds, the kind of numbers that usually define a championship run. Against most opponents, that effort might have made him the hero of the series. But this was Michael Jordan. Jordan elevated the battle to another level, pouring in 41 points per game, a final scoring mark that still hasn't been surpassed. It was the kind of dominance that left no room for debate. Oddly enough, that crushing defeat didn't ruin their friendship. The bond between them lasted for years afterward, even growing stronger as their playing careers ended. Barkley moved into broadcasting, becoming a fearless and entertaining voice on television, while Jordan stepped into ownership, determined to prove he could build a winning franchise from the front office just like he had on the court. They stayed in touch, shared laughs, and carried their long friendship into retirement. Then came 2012. During a TV segment, Barkley did what he had always done. He spoke bluntly and without filters. He said that while Jordan was unquestionably the greatest player of all time, his record as a team executive wasn't living up to that legacy. The team was struggling, personnel decisions were being criticized, and the results simply weren't there. Normally, that kind of commentary wouldn't mean much. Analysts criticize teams and owners every day. But this wasn't a normal situation. This was one friend publicly questioning another. And for Michael Jordan, that crossed a line.
Matt, he was my best friend at the time, and I love the guy and I miss the guy.
Barkley explained.
First of all, I don't think it's fair for me to critique other GMs and coaches and have a double standard. That goes back to the Skip Bayless thing. Like, you can tell the guys he liked and guys he disliked. I think I'm fair.
Barkley says Jordan phoned him that same night, and his airness didn't hold back.
And he called me and we haven't spoken since that night.
Words flew, and tensions boiled over in an instant.
Motherfucker, fuck you.
Almost 3 decades of friendship, gone in a single, profanity-laced phone call. What makes the story so striking is how perfectly it reveals the core of both men. Jordan, the ultimate competitor who demanded absolute loyalty, couldn't fathom that his closest friend would openly critique him. Barkley, on the other hand, was frustrated and bewildered that Jordan had forgiven Phil Jackson, who had made similar criticisms about his management style. For Barkley, the straight shooter who built his post-playing career on honesty and unfiltered analysis, loyalty couldn't come at the cost of integrity. Friendship, in his eyes, should never mean sacrificing the truth.
We haven't spoken since that night. That was probably close to 10 years ago.
The stubbornness is what truly defines this clash. Both men are alphas, unwilling to yield. Jordan demands loyalty from those closest to him. It's embedded in his DNA as a competitor. Barkley, meanwhile, has built his entire television career on speaking truths others shy away from. It's not just his job, it's who he is. Even Stephen A. Smith weighed in on the feud, noting,
Jordan. That's really what this comes down to. And one of the things that I'm not going to let anybody lie on Charles Barkley, and I'm not going to let anybody lie on Michael Jordan, because I know them a little bit. Michael Jordan is not how Charles Barkley just described.
The irony is striking and deeply tragic. Two men who once faced each other in the fiercest battles of the 1993 finals, men who set aside friendship to compete at the highest level, eventually lost that bond over something far less significant than a championship. That June night, Jordan proved he was the superior player. Barkley saw it clearly and never denied it. Years later, both are in their 60s, grandfathers, legends whose careers are etched in history. Jordan walks through life with 6 rings, an Air Jordan empire, and billions in the bank. Barkley carries a Hall of Fame legacy and a multi-million-dollar television career. Yet what neither of them possesses anymore is the friendship that once defined them. When asked today whether reconciliation is possible, Barkley doesn't hesitate. Jordan has his number. The ball, as always, is in someone else's court.